Hi all. Back in Sutton Congress 1999, I remember I personally beat one of the top seeds, and IM, Colin Crouch. But that game's already been video annotated. But I want to have a look at the magnificent Andrew Webster, who's an inactive player at the moment. But his last FIDE was about 2400. So if you go to the FIDE website, look for England and include inactive players, he'll still be ranked around in the top 50 in England. So with White, I remember him once saying in this 30-minute junior tournament about not being too concerned with opening theory and just playing, he thought that he recommended me to play the English opening, saying, all you do with the English is get a grip on D5. And I want to revisit some of his games, which I had recorded on the Barnet Chess Club site back in 1999. So let's see, what was he right? Very talented players, they don't seem to need to know too much technical opening theory. And because I'm a player that likes the softer side of chess, strategic ideas, and less the harder side like concrete calculation and having to memorize reams of opening theory, I like this sort of idea that you can just play the opening quietly. And so did Norwood. Norwood was also playing G3 and avoiding opening theory, and he was a grandmaster. But Andrew Webster was an IM. So let's have a look at some of his wins from 1999, the Sutton Congress. So here, he was White against Rick Thomas. So the English opening, so he's controlling D5. So it's all very logical moves. Nothing much to remember so far. The bishop is exerting influence on this diagonal and that D5 square. So black contests immediately though, but he's getting rid of one of his centre pawns for a flank pawn. So we're kind of getting a Sicilian defence in reverse strategy, but the dragon variation. But in the dragon, if you were playing dragon with black in the Sicilian, you're usually, facing an H-file attack, but here it's different. Black's fianchettoed, so this is safer for White. The whole character is different to a reverse Sicilian dragon. So Black's supporting that D5, but now E4. So White's getting the pawn in that centre, and already there's some restriction on Black. The bishop's restricted; it's tied down to B7. The knight's kind of restricted. This pawn's doing a good job. So D5. The only problem may be this D5's got a bit of pressure for Black at the moment. Queen B6. Now we see a nice little move, Queen C7, so pinning that knight to the rook and not fearing actually a later bishop G7 and castles. When the time comes to move it, it will be moved. So knight A3, this is a nice little move, going to get a tempo on that queen on B6, so another part of that decision not to exchange queens earlier, as well as Black having dynamism on the A file. So D4, I think White's winning the central battle. These two pawns form a little small positional edge to work from. H3, bit of prophylaxis against bishop G4. So a lot of the pieces are getting gradually restricted. Black tries to generate some counterplay now with this strike C5. Things sharpen up now. E5. So the knight goes back, and now F4. So this is the first, potentially controversial decision. Is this diagonal going to be exploitable if Black plays CD? Well, Andrew actually doesn't mind just playing knight takes D4. In this position, it looks difficult now for Black either to quickly use the C file or this diagonal. So Black actually decides to sack a piece to try and speed up things with knight takes E5. So is this counterplay going to be held in control? So a piece sack for two pawns, bishop E3, now 3 pawns, bishop takes G3 check. So Andrew's just playing king E2 here, queen C5, and now a nice little move here, tactical move, which causes some issues for Black. The move knight C6, so if queen takes C3 there's knight takes C7, at least regaining one of the pawns. But there is the possibility of queen H5, however this can be parried by bishop F3. This is what happens, queen H5 check, bishop F3, and then we have the move queen H4 defending that E7 pawn. Now is the knight going to move now but at the moment the queen's eyeing this diagonal, so actually Andrew plays a very nice tactical move. So although he is very good, you know, on the positional grip, you know, of d5, he's a very nice, you know, tactical player as well. That's part of his makeup as an international master at that time. So he plays actually the move bishop h6. So if queen takes h6, there'll be knight takes e7 mate. And that's the point. White's threatening queen g7 mate with that move as well. So black's got a few problems now. He plays e5, and white picks up the exchange, so he's even more material up. Not just the piece which black sacrificed, but even more. Knight takes a7, another nice neat little tactic. So if rook takes, then there's queen takes c8. It's all gone a bit pear-shaped for black. Bishop e6, the knight comes to b5. Now rook c8. Will black get any counterplay at all in this game? Are there potential threats? Unfortunately, the knight is doing a good job of securing that c4 square. So just queen e3, queen b4, and now queen d2, offering queens, and also coming to d6 potentially. Black threw in the check, and now queen d3. Things are getting sorted out now. The black counterplay is getting extinguished here, but there's the centralizing move queen e4 to help facilitate this. Now knight c3, again another move which puts the knight closer to the centre, blocks the c file. The king is getting a bit safer now. Knight c5, queen g4, hitting actually c8 and g3. Maybe black was in time trouble. He's potentially losing even more material. He plays actually rook d8, which creates a dangerous threat of like queen d2 or rook d2. Actually Andrew decides, instead of snapping up the bishop, which might lose, I'm not going to bother calculating it, he just played this nice consolidating move at the end, rook ad1, and then black just resigned. His attacks run out of firepower. He just lots of material down. So let's have a look at this quiet, you know, positional start again. So the English opening, just contesting d5, and then we do have a tactical little battle emerging with a very interesting decision here of queen c3. The idea, I guess, you know, if d4 is going to be played, this bishop on the diagonal is not going to quickly harass this queen later when it gets protected. But black really unsoundly, in a nutshell, sacked a piece, I guess. But it was nice how the counterplay was handled. It was actually 3 pawns for the piece. But now the start of black's doom was knight c6. So a nice little move here, knight c6. So queen takes c3, there was knight e7. And then this beautiful little tactical move coming up, bishop h6. Nice little first round win from Andrew. So I want to quickly go over his other wins as well in this tournament, but let's do it one video at a time. Okay. So nice consolidation and double attack there, forcing a desperate resource, but even that's extinguished first. White's not too greedy. He wants to keep control of the position, and black resigned. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.